You know what hurts more than being called names by strangers? Being dismissed by someone who once braided your hair before school. I'm Talia, 29, and for as long as I can remember, I've lived in my sister Madison's shadow, the beautiful one, the bold one, the one who never had to ask twice for attention. 2 years older and miles ahead in presence, she had this effortless way of commanding a room. People loved being near her, admired her, wanted to be her, and I just wanted her to like me. I tried. God, I tried. Every occasion, birthdays, graduations, random days when I thought she looked sad, I brought gifts, not expensive ones, not flashy or branded, but meaningful. I'd scour Etsy for hours to find a charm that reminded me of something we once said as kids. I'd tuck in handwritten notes, inside jokes only she and I would understand. I thought they'd matter. I thought I mattered. But Madison had a way of making warmth feel like weakness. The first time she called one of my gifts cheap, I was 16. I'd saved up from my part-time job at the bookstore to buy her a small silver necklace with a tiny book pendant. She'd just gotten into MU for literature. She opened the box, blinked once, and let out this tight little laugh like I'd handed her a candy wrapper. Seriously, Talia, this looks like something out of a gumball machine. Then came the word, cheap. My heart didn't break, not yet. It tightened, curled in on itself like it knew it wasn't welcome there. After that, it became a pattern. Every effort I made was met with a side eye and a rehearsed insult. She opened the gifts in front of our parents or her friends, let the insult drip slowly, then watched the awkward tension settle in like fog. And people, they didn't defend me. They just laughed politely or shifted the conversation. Once, I gave her a hand-bound cookbook filled with our grandma's old recipes, rewritten and laminated. She flipped through it, her lip curled like I'd handed her a pile of expired coupons. Still clinging to the whole sentimental shtick, huh? I said nothing. I smiled. That was always my role, the smiling sister, the nice one, the giver. I pack up my bruised ego and move on again and again. But inside, I was collecting something, not resentment. Not at first. More like receipts, little reminders of who she was beneath the glitter. I think a part of me hoped she'd change. That one day she'd open a gift and say, "You really know me," or even just, "Thanks." But no matter how hard I tried, it never came. Until last Christmas. She said it again. Cheap. In front of everyone, smirking, dismissing, like always. Only this time, I didn't feel that old twinge of shame. This time, I felt clarity, because I finally realized the cheapest thing in the room wasn't the gift. It was her kindness, rationed out in cruel little doses, a game I no longer had to play. And in that moment, something inside me, that good girl version of me, snapped, quietly, cleanly. She had no idea what I was about to give her next. And for the first time in years, I didn't smile. Not even a little. The air was thick with cinnamon and forced laughter when I stepped into the living room. The fireplace crackled with choreographed warmth, stockings hung with faux sheer, and the Christmas tree shimmered in the corner like it was trying too hard. I held the gift in both hands, a flat, rectangular box wrapped in muted gold paper. No ribbon, no tag. Nothing festive about it, just quiet, intentional. I had never felt so calm walking into one of these gatherings. Madison spotted me instantly, of course. She always did. From across the room, her eyes flicked over my outfit, my hair, my hands. Noticing. Calculating. Her smile came late, but it came. "There she is," she said, voice honey with sarcasm. "You didn't forget a gift this year, did you?" I smiled gently and handed her the box. She arched a brow. "No bow? How very utilitarian." A few people laughed, not because it was funny, but because Madison's voice always came with permission. She peeled the paper slowly, theatrically, expecting another Talia special, a trinket, something adorable, something she could mock with a twirl of her perfect fingers. But when the paper fell away, revealing a plain black box, her rhythm faltered. She lifted the lid and found the manila folder resting neatly inside. I watched her pulse flick in her throat as she pinched the tab and slid the folder out. The light dimmed in her eyes just a shade. She opened it. Her fingers stopped moving. She stared at the top page for a beat too long. I saw her blink once, twice, slower than normal, as if her body couldn't keep up with her brain. Then she turned the page. I knew the moment she hit the line about the settlement. Her jaw clenched ever so slightly. The muscles in her neck tensed. She closed the folder quietly, too quietly, and placed it back into the box like it was something contaminated. That's when I knew she understood. This wasn't a threat, it was a message. No more cheap shots, no more games. The silence that followed was deafening in a room full of noise. She didn't make a joke, didn't toss it to the side. She didn't even look at me. She couldn't. Because she realized what I already knew, that beneath her curated confidence, her filtered perfection, and her lifelong performance of superiority, she was afraid. Not of me, of the truth. The documents were no longer publicly accessible. The county had archived them into sealed juvenile files, tucked away in forgotten corners. But a retired clerk still remembered her name. Said, she was trouble back then, with a laugh. I had to pay for copies. I paid gladly. Fraud. Identity misuse. A settlement made quietly to avoid escalation. Madison had buried it all, moved cities, rebranded herself. And now here it was, unwrapped, in front of the family. She thought she owned the narrative, that she got to decide who wore the crown and who handed her the jewels. But not today. Today, I handed her the truth, bare, clinical, absolute. And Madison, for once in her life, had nothing to say. There's a kind of cruelty that doesn't come with raised voices or slammed doors. It's more insidious than that. It creeps into the pauses between conversations, hides in the subtext of backhanded compliments, and flourishes in public laughter at private expense. Madison was a master of that kind of cruelty. Growing up, she didn't pull my hair or steal my toys. She did something far worse. She convinced everyone around us that I was the punchline. And somehow, she made it charming. That was her talent. She'd point to my mismatched socks at breakfast and say, Talia's trying the whole homeless chick flip again. She'd rifle through my sketchbooks, flip them open at family dinners, and narrate them like bad children's books. Oh look, this one's sad and ugly. She told her friends I was adopted by accident, not in private, in school hallways, on speakerphone, during sleepovers where I wasn't invited but could hear through the walls. I used to look at our parents, silently pleading for them to say something, anything, but they'd smile with that tired expression people wear when they don't want to deal with discomfort. Oh, girls, my mother would murmur, shaking her head, don't be so dramatic. It's just sister stuff. But it wasn't. It was precise, it was habitual, and it was designed to make me feel like less. Madison never raised her voice, but she always raised the stakes. At her bridal shower 3 years ago, I gave her a ceramic dish set I'd spent 3 weeks making at a pottery studio. It wasn't perfect. Some edges were a little uneven. The glaze bubbled on one piece, but it was mine. I had crafted it with her in mind. She held one plate up, turned it in her hands like it was a science project gone wrong, and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Oh my God, did a child make this? Was this a school project or something?" Laughter. Forced, awkward, but real. I stood there, heat crawling up my neck, and smiled like it didn't matter. That was my reflex. Always smile. Always deflect. But it did matter. Then came the Instagram story. A photo of a perfectly set engagement dinner table, candles lit, wine glasses gleaming, captioned, "When your own sister forgets to RSVP." Maybe she was busy knitting coasters again. I hadn't forgotten to RSVP. I was never invited. That was her power, to twist the truth into something damning and make sure it landed where it would hurt most. And still, I swallowed it, year after year, bite after bite, because part of me believed if I just loved her hard enough, she'd stop seeing me as disposable. That one day I'd hand her something, a gift, a gesture, a word, and she'd finally see me. But Madison never wanted to see me. She wanted me beneath her. And I let her do it. Because that's what little sisters do, right? We forgive. We turn the other cheek. We try to rise above. Until we don't. Until one day, after too many bruises masked as jokes, you stop trying to earn the respect of someone who's been stepping on you for years. This time, I didn't come bearing something cute or sentimental. I came with truth, sharp-edged and undeniable. Because I wasn't the same cheap little sister she thought I was. The folder wasn't just a collection of old papers. It was a quiet biography of the person Madison had spent years hiding beneath designer clothes, curated smiles, and carefully rehearsed charm. The deeper she read, the more the mask she'd spent her entire adult life polishing began to fracture. Line by line, truth overtook performance. Her settlement papers were only the beginning, a visible crack in what she believed was a flawless facade. But the rest of the file? That was where the real rot lived. There was documentation of the loan she'd taken from her ex-boyfriend, Tyler, not under her own name, but under our parents'. She had forged their signatures with the same casual confidence she used to forge excuses in high school. She promised Tyler she'd pay it back within 3 months. She didn't. Instead, she ghosted him, moved states, and blocked his number. When he threatened legal action, she panicked. The file showed email exchanges between their attorneys, terse, icy communications negotiating a quiet settlement to keep the matter from becoming public. And then there was the forged apology letter she wrote under our father's name, full of remorse he never felt for something he never knew had happened. Our parents remained blissfully unaware, which was exactly how she wanted it. Madison had always believed that maintaining her image mattered more than telling the truth, and she'd built that image so meticulously that even her ugliest mistakes never made it past the people paid to bury them. But I wasn't paid, I wasn't controlled, and I wasn't oblivious anymore. I knew everything tucked inside those pages, every forged signature, every manipulated plea, every lie she wrapped herself in like perfume. And now she knew that I knew. Her fear wasn't loud or dramatic. Madison never wasted emotion on anything that didn't serve her. But the stillness in her shoulders, the hard swallow she tried to disguise, the faint tremor at the corner of her jaw, those told the story better than any scream could have. Later, when the buzz of conversation drifted into the background and the kitchen empty of people, she yanked me by the wrist into the narrow room behind the counter. The scent of pine cleaner hung in the air, sharp and sterile. "Why would you do this to me?" she hissed, her voice low and venom-soft, the tone she reserved for moments when cruelty became currency. Her eyes searched mine, frantic and narrow, the way someone looks when they aren't sure whether they're staring at a friend or at the person holding the match. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't flinch. I met her glare with the calm she couldn't shake. "Because Madison," I said, each word deliberate, "all my gifts were from the heart. You called them cheap. You mocked them. You mocked me. But this one?" I nodded toward the folder still clutched against her chest like a time bomb. "This is exactly what it's worth. Fear for fear." Something flickered across her face, not anger, not embarrassment, but recognition. A dawning awareness that the sister she'd spent years sculpting into a harmless shadow had stepped into the light, and that the light was unforgiving. She stared at me as though I had reshaped myself in the span of an hour, as if the sister she always dismissed, always underestimated, had been replaced with someone sharper, steadier, more dangerous than she ever imagined. And maybe, for the first time in her life, she was seeing me clearly. Not anymore. I never leaked the documents, never sent anonymous scans to our parents or forwarded the records to her employer. I didn't whisper it into the ear of a gossipy cousin or drop it like a firecracker into a family group chat. I didn't have to. The silence that followed was more powerful than any exposure. Because something shifted that night. Not explosively. Madison was far too calculated for public breakdowns, but undeniably. She didn't return to the living room. She excused herself early, citing a headache. For the first time in a decade, she left a family gathering before I did. In the weeks that followed, I felt it, the quiet recalibration of power. Madison stopped posting performative stories about her curated life. The sarcasm disappeared from her texts. She didn't tag me in memes mocking handmade gifts or passive-aggressively comment on my posts about art or writing. She simply stepped back. Not with an apology, not with a grand gesture, but with a kind of caution I'd never seen from her. It was almost unnerving, the absence of cruelty. I realized then how much I had built my identity around bracing for her mockery. But it was gone. She was gone. Or rather, the version of her that always needed to be bigger by making me smaller was gone. And then, a few months later, we crossed paths again. A family brunch. neutral territory, low stakes. She arrived late, as usual. But when she saw me, she didn't offer a rehearsed line or a tight smile. She walked over and held out a small box. No theatrics, no crowd watching. Inside was a silver bracelet. Delicate, minimalist, clean lines. The kind of thing you pick with intention, not obligation. "I saw this," she said, her voice low, almost shy, "and thought of you." That was it. No mockery, no subtext, just that. I didn't know what to say, and maybe that was the point. Some moments don't ask for commentary, they ask for presence. It wasn't an apology. Not the kind I used to fantasize about late at night when her words still echoed louder than my own self-worth. She didn't fall to her knees or confess that she'd been cruel. But in that one gesture, she acknowledged something real. That I wasn't beneath her. That I never had been. And that terrified her more than the file ever could. Because once someone sees you as their equal, after years of pretending you were insignificant, they can't unsee it. Sometimes justice doesn't look like revenge. It doesn't come screaming or wrapped in public humiliation. Sometimes, justice is quiet. It's in the moment someone who used to laugh at you can't even meet your eyes without remembering what you handed them, not out of hatred, but out of truth. It's in the weight of a gift that finally made them pause, finally made them listen. If I ever doubted the value of the things I gave, the cards, the handmade gifts, the efforts she tossed aside like trash, I remember the stillness in her face when she opened that folder. Not every present comes with a bow. Some come with a reckoning. And this one? This was the only gift she never laughed at. Because it spoke the one language she never thought I'd learn. Power delivered without a word.